Welcome to the Public Safety Innovators Podcast. Connecting you with experts and trendsetters who are leading innovation in law enforcement, private security, and personal protection. And now, your host, Adam Wills.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in for episode 1 of the Public Safety Innovators Podcast. Well, here we are, the maiden voyage, and we're going to start off with a really awesome guest here for episode 1. But before we get to that, I want to thank everybody who has signed up for the podcast launch party giveaway that we did. We gave away some awesome prizes, 2 $100 gift cards to Gulls, as well as a bunch of swag from Point Blank Armor. Now, I want to thank Point Blank Armor for providing all of that gear that we gave away. All of our winners have already been notified, so if you're listening to the show, you should have already received an email if you signed up for the giveaway and were selected as a winner. So congratulations to all our winners of all that really cool and awesome stuff. Now, if you missed your opportunity to sign up for the giveaway, please, no fear. I will be doing some other giveaways later on in the future. So just stay tuned and be prepared to sign up for the next one. Now let's go ahead and get started with episode 1 here. We are going to be talking to Robert Whitaker of Blockchain Intelligence Group. Now, these guys, they are focused on helping you with cryptocurrency investigations. In this episode, Robert is going to explain to us how they do that. First of all, they offer services related to helping you with your investigations, consulting, testifying in court as an expert witness, as well as they also offer training where they will come to your agency and assist you in learning about all things related to cryptocurrency and how to conduct investigations. Drug trafficking, sex trafficking, financial crimes, all of your traditional crimes nowadays are involving cryptocurrency. And if you don't know how to conduct an investigation around cryptocurrency, you're falling behind flatly. So Robert and his team over there at Blockchain Intelligence Group are going to help you get squared away. So let's go ahead and get started with my interview with Robert Whitaker. Well, Robert, welcome to the Public Safety Innovators Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Adam. How are you?
I am excellent. So I would like to go ahead and we'll dive in here and would like to talk about what you guys are up to over at Blockchain Associates. So can you tell us about your business and how you're helping out your clients or customers?
Well, at Blockchain Intelligence Group, we make a software platform that allows investigators and financial intelligence units who use our software to investigate cryptocurrency transactions, the flow of cryptocurrency. They can monitor it, they can track it, they can trace it, and it allows the investigator to see into the transaction, where it came from, where it went to. And we also, because in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies out there, the senders are anonymous, it allows us to, or allows the investigator to have attribution applied. And what I mean by attribution is what entity may own that cryptocurrency transaction. For instance, we have large exchanges around the world that deal in cryptocurrency, and they allow customers to buy and sell crypto and trade it with other people. So with that attribution, we allow them to know who sent, at least at a high level, who sent the cryptocurrency and who received it in what entity. So if you send a transaction from Kraken in San Francisco over to Coinbase in San Francisco, we look at those transactions, we apply some algorithms and heuristics to the transaction. We generally interpret who it belonged to and who received it, and we attribute those transactions for the investigator. That allows the investigator to then go and serve a judicial process, a subpoena or something like that, and then pick up the ownership of those accounts, allowing them to essentially get to the person's name of the transaction. and that helps. That's a big win for them because you see a lot of transnational crime, terrorist groups, and professional money laundering groups switching over to cryptocurrency because of its pseudo-anonymous nature.
That's awesome. I got to admit to you, my knowledge on cryptocurrency is quite limited, but I don't feel like I'm alone in that. Even in the law enforcement world, it's kind of a new thing, and how we conduct investigations relating to cryptocurrency is still something that the path is still being paved in that. And it's awesome to connect with somebody like you that has a very deep understanding of those things, because I'm sure I'm not alone. And I got to tell you, I actually ran into several years back when I was on, I think we were talking before the show a little bit, and I had mentioned to you I was on a U.S. Marshals task force several years back, and I attended a day-long training on cryptocurrency investigations. And nothing against the instructor at the time, but I think I retained and understood less than a third of that. And so it's kind of a complex thing, right?
Yeah, it is complex. We also do training. I spent a long time when I was with Homeland Security Investigations putting this program together and actually training. And I feel your pain. We've been there and done that. We try to provide, or I tried to condense it down to what investigators retain. So you're right. There is a lot of need out there for training and investigative tools in cryptocurrency because this really is a new frontier. It's one of those things that I don't know. You've been in this business a long time in law enforcement. I remember the days when the old MDT came out in the car, right? So you had this boxy computer sitting there. It had an orange screen or a black and white screen, and it was like a CRT. And I was a young officer at the time, and I was thinking, that's cool technology. I know what computers, I can do this.
Exactly.
And here's the old guys going, yeah, I don't want a car with that in it. I'll still write it down on my log sheet every day. And that's what went on for a couple of years. And then suddenly the old guys are like, no, I want the car with the MDT because it makes my job easier.
Yeah.
And then the younger guys like me were relegated to writing down on the log sheet, call to call to call. So, technology has its place. Law enforcement doesn't like change. I get it. I understand it, just like the old MDT. But when you grasp it and you start using it, it will make your job easier. It'll make your life better.
Absolutely. That's a really great point to make. And, I got to say that, that resonates with me and my experience. Just like you said, technology has just changed so fast over the last 20 years, not just as a whole, but specific to what we're dealing with in law enforcement. I mean, my first patrol car still had whirly lights on it, and I was carrying a giant brick for a radio. And, these guys today, and even when I left law enforcement almost 2 years ago now, I mean, things just changed dramatically. And it's kind of hard to keep up, especially with things like this.
It is indeed. So you got to look outside the box when you're in law enforcement. One of the things I said to myself, and I said to a lot of people who worked for me at the time, I said, look, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There are companies out here in the world who see the problems just like we do. And sometimes they see them before because they're really into technology, and they will develop the technology to assist us. So don't think we got to invent the wheel here. We just got to find the technology. It exists. Go get it. And that's exactly the case when it comes to cryptocurrency and investigations involving theft, fraud, scams, you name it, in cryptocurrency. The cases go on, and I get calls all the time from very, very frustrated investigators from all over the world who just want some help.
Yeah. So I want to get into the weeds and specifics a little bit more on some of the exact things you guys do. But before we do that, I want to kind of touch on a couple more sort of overall things about what you guys are up to. And so I'm wondering if you can maybe just paraphrase for me, what would you say is the one single biggest problem that you specialize in solving for people? And what is the outcome that can be achieved by working with you?
So, well, the biggest problem is something we already touched on, and that's the training part. Getting investigators to understand what the problem is. Get them to understand the technology. The technology, yes, it can be complex, but we don't have to make it complex. I have a friend of mine, and he would say, cryptocurrency is the only form of value I have to go in and explain how it works to investigators. I don't have to explain how the dollar works or the yen or how a financial account works at Bank of America. I don't have to explain that, but I have to explain how cryptocurrency works, or they just don't get it. And I agree with that. It's a new technology, and we have to continue to explain this. Now, 20 years, 30 years from now, we probably won't have to explain it because the younger generation gets it, and the younger generation will eventually become law enforcement, and they'll understand it. But for right now, this is where we are. And the single biggest thing I can say to anyone about cryptocurrency is learn about it, play with it, get yourself a wallet, get yourself an address, trade some Bitcoin with your buddies, and understand how it works. It'll make your life easier because this is a freight train coming down the tracks, and you've got to understand it. In fact, it's such a large freight train coming down that the U.S. government and governments around the world are looking at a digitally backed dollar, a cryptocurrency essentially, for the Fed. It's coming. You got to learn.
Yeah, this is a bit of a rabbit trail, so we maybe won't spend a ton of time on it. But since you brought that up, I'm not sure how to feel about it. Like my initial response to that is, ooh, that seems like a bad idea. But I also recognize that that's probably, at least in part, due to the fact that I really don't understand cryptocurrency all that well. So what are your thoughts on that?
So my thoughts on the government-backed cryptocurrency that we would use in exchange for the dollar. So fiat currency being the dollar or coins of any nation that's legal and tender. So inserting a cryptocurrency backed by a nation in there kind of makes me step back and go, I don't know, guys. Because if you think you're being marketed to now by all these private companies that have more value, wait till the U.S. government gets, that data is valuable. It's valuable in the sense that they'll know where you spent a dollar at. They'll know how you spent that dollar, what you bought with it. And the trail goes on of all kinds of different data that's gleaned out of those transactions, because it won't be pseudo-anonymous like Bitcoin is. But it will be widely open to the government. So I am in law enforcement. I spent 23 years in law enforcement. I do support, rules and regulations, and we got to have rules. But there's some points that I draw the line and go, well, I'm just not sure if the government needs to know that about me. That's my own personal opinion. I don't. That's just me.
Sure. No, and that's exactly what I was asking for. This show, I think, is intended to be a place where personal opinions are welcome and not shied away from. I think there's this is another rabbit trail. We definitely won't go down this one, but there's too much political correctness in this world, and I think we need to share our opinions more. So anyhow, so as it relates to kind of where we left off there and talking about what you guys accomplished for your customers and helping with training and investigations and that sort of thing. So would you say that the desired outcome that you're trying to help people achieve is to just have a sense of confidence about being able to conduct these kinds of investigations, whether it's because they've been trained to do it and have an understanding of it, or because they're working with you directly?
Yes. So we definitely want to get the training to them, and then we want to add pieces to that. So the training is highly important, and then we want to add our technology to it as well. I know that sounds a little self-serving, but technology takes time, money, and effort to make, and technology solves problems. So the training gets them to the point to where they can use our technology, because you need to have that understanding. And then once you get into the technology and you see it working, you immediately start to get it. You're like, okay, I can do this. This technology has solved lots of problems, because if you look at this problem, cryptocurrency transactions in a more analog form or written out form of just raw data of the way you would look at it on the blockchain, which I don't expect you to understand the term, but if you do, great. If you look at it on the blockchain, all you see is public key hashes to public key hash of a transaction, maybe some value, a time and date, but there's no real names or anything associated with it. And then you start looking at what we call inputs and outputs, where the money has flown, where the value is gone. And I'll interchange money and value the same, because I look at Bitcoin as money, but it is just a source of value. So you're following this value from place to place like you would if you were looking at a person's bank statement. but there's nothing attributed to it. There's no names here. There's nothing. We allow you to start looking at the names and where it went and how the transactions look in very visual forms. I can take a CSV spreadsheet into court that maybe has 1,000 transactions laid out in nice linear rows and columns, and try to explain it to a jury, and they'll walk out of there and go, "I have no idea what that guy just talked about." But if I take a picture in there that has arrows pointing to other circles and dots, and says this value flowed from here, from this person to this person to this person, and show it to them in nice graphical form, they walk up there and go, "That was easy, got it." That's what we're trying to get across. That's what we're trying to do. Make the investigator's job easy, where they can take it to a prosecutor, and a prosecutor can take it to a jury, and they can walk out of there with a positive outcome.
Awesome. Easy is good. In my experience, having been an administrator and leading law enforcement officers, easy is almost necessary in order to keep properly motivated to work on these kinds of cases. I've had experiences in the past where guys or gals will look at a case and they're like, "Oh, it's so complex," and they end up dragging their feet on it or whatever it may be, and don't fault them for that, but we have to provide them in those sort of circumstances where we see that happening. We have to provide them with resources like this and the training you guys offer and the consulting to be able to be empowered to feel like they can take on those kinds of cases. And so easy's good.
It's great. I always think we like to have the easy button in front of us, right?
Yeah. I'd like to know a little bit more about the software solution you guys have. And I'm definitely very curious about this stuff. And I'd like to know more. I want to be careful, though, and you kind of let me know if we're hitting toward this point. I don't want to ask you to disclose anything that could potentially jeopardize these sorts of investigations, because obviously this is a public podcast. But I'd love to know more about how you're able to attribute those transactions to an actual individual and how that works within your guys' software, which is called Clue, right? Clue.
It's Clue. It's called Clue. It's kind of a spin on, Clue, the word Clue. It stands for Qualitative Law Enforcement Unified Edge.
Okay.
And we actually have two products in the same So we have an overarching product called Compliance Suites. And inside the Compliance Suites, we have Clue for law enforcement and what we call BitRank for financial institutions. Recognizing that even though financial institutions are into investigations in cryptocurrency, they generally are not into criminal investigations. That's why we broke them out in two pieces.
Sure.
We will allow financial institutions to use the Clue product. We do. There's nothing there that is evidentiary to the point to where it might mess up a case or skew a case somewhere. There's nothing that can be materially changed or falsified or anything like that. So, there's no issues on the evidence side on that in that respect. So both sides can use it. And what we do is we collect data. We collect blockchain data from Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum, ERC20 transfers, XRP, XLM's coming in shortly, Bitcoin Cash, Bitcoin SB. We have a huge list of supported cryptocurrencies. We data mine all the block data, and then we go through transactional data, transactional history. We have our own special way that we gather attribution to certain addresses, all the blockchains, and we have a pretty good size open source intelligence team also that scrubs the internet. Basically, the internet's a great resource if you're into intelligence. We go out there and we scrub for scams. This guy lost X amount of crypto on this scam and stuff like that. So we try to do them. We're always looking at what the federal government does and the federal agencies, because they have they have some really good investigators in the crypto space. And when they publish indictments, we go scrub those indictments for who did what and how it happened and how the investigator solved the case. And we glean information out of there too. So we constantly strive to make our product better. It's all about data. And then after the data, it's all about delivering it to the front end, to the investigator, in a usable format that's easy for them to understand.
So if I'm inside your software and I'm using that for my investigation, is it just a matter, like, how is that data populated? Do I, just plug in a subject's name and whatever other demographic information I may have about them, or how does that work, and how does that bring me information that helps me solve my case?
Right. So we are all about the choke points. So what we do in the crypto world is we don't apply Adam's name to a transaction. And we don't do that because our software is consumed by the public in the terms of financial institutions. So we don't apply your name to it. That would lead us to all kinds of problems with PII and other things. But what we do is we allow you to insert a cryptocurrency address or transaction into a search bar. The software clue will then grab all the data related around that transaction and show you how the transaction occurred from before the transaction occurred to the transaction you're interested in and the address you're interested in to the next one. Then you can keep expanding it out, moving forward or backwards until you come to an attributed transaction or entity. Say for instance, we'll just use one, Coinbase. They're my favorite. I love those guys over there. Goes to Coinbase, and then you, as a law enforcement officer, use your subpoena power and send a subpoena to Coinbase. They send you back the person's name because Coinbase and other cryptocurrency exchanges around the United States are regulated by the BSA, the Bank Secrecy Act, and they have to have these regulatory items in place. Know your customer. They have to know who the transaction went from and to. They have to track all this stuff. So they are great resources when you're in the financial world, and that's how we allow you to go to choke points. To deal with cryptocurrency, you have to put up fiat currency first in most cases. So if I want to buy Bitcoin, I just don't walk in and say, "Give me $1,000 in Bitcoin," because they're going to say, "Well, give me $1,000." And that's what happens. You go to a recognized exchange, and there's some other ways to get crypto that are more into the not so lawful ways, but the lawful way to get crypto today is you go to one of these recognized exchanges, you give them fiat currency, they give you cryptocurrency, and then you can start exchanging it with yourself if you want, or your friends, or other exchanges, or trade it, or hold it as an investment vehicle. But the know your customer information acquired by that exchange when you opened it is as valuable to the investigator as anything they have going. That is what they want. That's the holy grail. Because if you can attribute a transaction, you know who did it.
So can you tell me then, what is sort of the most common way that you see investigators are coming up with that information? Because what I'm thinking through here in my head is, all right, well, because I've done a number of narcotics investigations and cases myself. And, let's say I've got somebody that I'm looking at who I know is selling narcotics in my jurisdiction, and I'm working on putting together a case on them. And maybe I've got some unofficial informants that are telling me, hey, he's using cryptocurrency for transactions. How do I find that information to be able to start to go down this path that we're talking about now using your services?
I'm glad you asked me that, because that is essentially where our training services come in. So how do you recognize a cryptocurrency transaction? How do you recognize that cryptocurrency is essentially in play? Now, going back to your drug analogy, if you have an opioid problem in your jurisdiction, I know that a lot of fentanyl and other opioids are coming across the southern border. I get it. I know it. I've worked out here my entire life. But I'm telling you right now that you very likely have a crypto problem as well, because that's where a lot of those fentanyl tablets came from in the early days, is dark markets supplying large amounts of tablets, thousands and thousands in a shipment from overseas and also domestically in the United States, pressed fentanyl tablets being marketed as counterfeit Xanax or Oxycontin or hydrocodone. Now, that being said, the way you know is, first of all, you have people, human intelligence. They tell you this guy is dealing with crypto. So that's clue number one. Clue number two is, when you get a chance, you need to just not serve that search warrant when you get a chance for just items related to drug trafficking or other financial records, because other financial records here could be cryptocurrency. Take your CFA with you, your computer forensics agent, and seize that computer. Get the devices in the house. I don't care how small they are. Those little Bluetooth dongles that you have that you plug a mouse in? Seize that too, because that can have an entire operating system of Tails or I2P or some other encrypted app that is used on a computer. Seize that. You need to have that stuff. you could find the whole wealth of your investigation right there in that little piece of equipment. Get into the phones.
Yeah.
You got to get into the phones. You got to get into the bank record. Look for those ACH transactions to recognized exchanges. Look for those wires coming in. So grand jury subpoenas for the records on the financial side, and don't dismiss these transactions over to recognized exchanges. I mean, you have to know what you're looking for, but get them. Seize the phone, dump them. There could be wallets on the phone, and most importantly, know what the evidence looks like when it's written down. Is there a seed phrase on a piece of paper laying on a desk somewhere? Is there an address, a Bitcoin address, laying on a piece of paper, written down on a piece of paper, sitting on the desk? I mean, it's just a number of alphanumeric characters, scratched out on a piece of paper. If you don't know what you're looking for, you might be like, oh, there's nothing there. But that one address, I'm not kidding you, Adam, you can lead yourself back to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in cryptocurrency sitting on that piece of paper and you don't know it.
Man, you're making me think that I've probably come across some of those in search warrants I've done and just not recognized what they were. But you make a really good point there, too, about making sure to update, your search warrants and what you list in there as seizable items, because let's face it. I mean, we all work off of templates, every single one of us. And if you're not using templates for your search warrants, you're doing it wrong because you're wasting time. But the problem is you use these templates where you kind of have, okay, this is my narcotics search warrant template, right? And so I know that these are the types of items that I'm typically looking for in a narcotics investigation. And you can go through and fine tune it, take things out, add things if you need to. But what we're not really good at, or at least I know I wasn't, is keeping my templates up to date as technology changes, as things change, as methods of trafficking change. And so this is a good time out right here to tell everybody that's listening, if you're using templates for your search warrants and you don't have items listed in there related to cryptocurrency and digital technology, go and update those now so that you don't forget. Because I'll tell you, I've been on a couple of those search warrants where we're like, hey, did anybody put cell phones in here? And we're like, oh, crap. Right?
Exactly.
So that's the last thing you want to do is end up in that situation. And then you got to pause and write another one and get it approved. And so that's a really great point, to be looking for those things. And so back to the numbers, you talk about the account numbers that you ought to be looking for that maybe are written on a piece of paper in a house or whatever. I'm not even sure I would know how to recognize, if I saw a piece of paper with some numbers on it, that's a cryptocurrency account number. Is there a formula or is there a way to recognize that?
Well, cryptocurrency addresses, or what we call the public key, they do look different depending on the cryptocurrency. So a Bitcoin address will start with a 1 or a 3 or a BC1 in front of it. Your Ethereum address will start with a 0 and an X. So those are just two examples. You really need to see a picture of one and say, yeah, that's a cryptocurrency address. Because once you see it, you'll immediately recognize it. And that's where we have reduced this training, down from highly technical down to look for this, look for these. And I love my law enforcement guys out there. I've been doing training in law enforcement for a long time now. You have to put it in terms that people understand, that they get. You have a different level of understanding of technology in a classroom before you and across law enforcement altogether. Just put it in the best terms and simplest terms as possible, and everyone's going to get it. Everyone will get it, and that's what we try to do. And that allows you to go to step 2 of the investigation. Step 1, you got to recognize you have a problem. Step 2, identify the actors, and step 3, identify the evidence and you go from there. So we're all about helping officers, agents, deputies, you name the agency type, and we're all about getting them to the next step and helping them out.
Awesome. Now, you kind of touched on this a little bit already earlier in the show here when we were talking about the Clue software and tracking different transactions You started to talk about some of the different digital currencies that you have on your list of ones that you're able to work within. Are there are just so many out there? Are there digital currency forms that you guys aren't able to track? And what's the status of that? Is that just kind of like one of these, hey, it's new and we're trying to work on getting that integrated, or what does that look like?
Right. I'm so glad you asked that, Adam, because this is a huge, huge market. In fact, I'm looking at CoinMarketCap right now on my other screen while I'm talking to you. And they list 6,525 cryptocurrencies today.
I would not have even guessed that number. I was going to guess somewhere around 1,000.
Right. So you think of that and you go, wow, holy smokes. And those cryptocurrencies are wrapped up in about 26,000 different markets out there, in different ways, being used different ways. So we can't cover those all. We just can't do it. It would take billions of dollars to probably cover that, and all kinds of computing power and infrastructure and stuff. And we to be honest, we can't. Not at this point. Maybe one of these days, but right now, no. So what we do is we look at the top cryptocurrencies out there. So the top cryptocurrencies out there right now are Bitcoin, Ethereum, XRP or Ripple, Tether. Chainlink has come out of nowhere, but they're up there. Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, and Bitcoin SV. So out of those we cover all except Chainlink and Tether. We have XRP in our tool, and we're really looking at Tether, or what they know as the Omni layer, which is we do identify, but we don't allow you to explore too deep into it. So we'll be adding different things in as we move along. But we cover, looks like about the top 6 or top 7 cryptos on the market, with more to come. And that's how we kind of gauge our interest. And we also talk to law enforcement all the time and ask them, what are you seeing? What kind of cryptos do you see out there? And what our federal friends out there tell us is Bitcoin is still being used, and it is. It's the most dominant crypto on the market. Ethereum and the ERC20 tokens are of interest. Certainly with the ICOs and the other digital assets that are coming along the ERC20 blockchain. XRP is great for banks, so we cover that. Bitcoin Cash, Litecoin, Bitcoin SV, we all also cover those, and that's what our law enforcement agencies are telling us we need to cover. So we're doing it, and we have more to come. We have plans we have XRP coming in, Stellar Lumens is coming. I think we'll probably make a decision shortly on Binance Coin and a couple others. But there's what we have. I think we have a good offering on the top 7 cryptos out there.
Well, it's good to know that you guys are staying on top of that. I'm just amazed at how many there actually are, and I'm thinking or wondering, I guess, do you think from your expertise and perspective on this particular topic, that at some point down the road, as cryptocurrency becomes more of an accepted thing, not just by the criminal element, but by people in general, does that number of cryptocurrencies end up just coming down and coalescing around a smaller number of them? I mean, that's typically what we see with any sort of technology, is that there's just everybody runs to that market right when it's new, but as it becomes more generally accepted, it sort of coalesces around a few providers. What are your thoughts on that?
So I agree with you 100%. I think as time goes on, we're going to see a coalescing. And, honestly speaking, a lot of these different digital assets that we see traded on exchanges around the world, they're not necessarily meant for that. I mean, that's their investment vehicle, and that's how they're making money to continue on their blockchain for whatever that blockchain was designed to do. The coin or token is the investment vehicle that allowed them to get to where they are in many cases. So I do see, as a payment system, coalescing around different good for payment cryptos out there. I personally think that Bitcoin, what is still dominant out there, people understand Bitcoin, they've heard of Bitcoin, is still out there. Bitcoin is not really the best payment vehicle out there because it does have a few problems. But technology solves problems, so we'll see how that goes. I mean, there may be changes to the code that actually make it better. We'll see. I'm not going to comment much farther than that because I don't want to, bash anyone here because they're all good things.
Yeah.
But we'll see how it goes. And I think you're absolutely correct. We will see coalescing around different cryptos because of the way they're used, because of their ability to handle transactions, or in a lot of cases, how fintech treats them in making them easier to use for the common user.
Now, do you think that's actually going to make these sort of investigations any easier as that coalescing occurs, or can that make it more complicated? I mean, I would think that having fewer would make it easier, but at the same token, when you look at the growth of some of these companies like Facebook, the bigger that they've become, the harder it is to actually work with them from a law enforcement capacity and get information from them. So what are your thoughts there on that?
That is the beauty of cryptocurrency. If you have an open blockchain like Bitcoin, you're not depending, and there is no company called Bitcoin, and there is no company called blockchain. These are all public chains. They're open for anyone to explore at any time. You can today go to any one of these free explorers and just look at it and look at the blockchain. It's public. It's for you to view. And that's the allure of crypto with the financial privacy built in, and everything's open to see, right? So that was the biggest allure. Like that was Satoshi's dream when he wrote this. Financial privacy and making everything open. So privacy for the individual, but open for the world to see. And that was the allure. That's the big thing. So as Bitcoin gets bigger and bigger, it still maintains that it's open, that it's public. You can see the transactions. You just don't know who did the transaction. That's the pseudo-anonymous.
Got it.
Now, as we start to coalesce around different things and we see different regulation coming in, certainly the Financial Action Task Force, FATF, has brought in recommendations for many, many countries around the world that are trying to append different travel rule information to the backside of cryptocurrency transactions. As we see that coming in, we're probably going to see some changes in the crypto market as we go. But those are things that we're still waiting to see happen. I think we will see some dynamic changes. We're in early days here. This is such a nascent technology. And people say, well, Bitcoin's been around for about 10 years now. I know, but that is nothing compared to how long currency's been around. Currency. We are still, this is an infant. And the world is changing rapidly, and it's exciting and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you on that. But I mean, I guess that's the truth for any technology, really. Hey, just me here cutting in for a quick break. Have you subscribed to the podcast yet? If not, you need to. I'm going to be dropping some more episodes here over the coming weeks, and I don't want you to miss a single one. I've got some awesome guests lined up that I'm sure you're going to want to hear from. So please go to wherever it is that you prefer to listen to podcasts and subscribe to the show. Right now, we're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, Castro, iHeartRadio, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Podchaser, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, and Amazon. Now, if there's a place that you prefer to listen to podcasts that wasn't on that list, would you please email me at adam@psi.chat and let me know what that is? I'd be happy to submit the show to that directory. All right, let's go ahead and jump back into the show. If we may, I mean, I could talk about digital currency all day because I think it's just a fascinating topic, and there's obviously a lot to unpack about it. But I want to talk about something we haven't talked about yet that you guys offer as a service, that you guys also work with helping with investigations related to encrypted communications, such as through Telegram and other platforms like that. What else can you tell me about that?
Well, we have the perfect storm brewing, and the perfect storm brewing for the criminal enterprise around the world, or criminal groups around the world, transnational crime especially, is encrypted communication married to encrypted money. So when you take encrypted communication, Telegram, Signal, Allure, and there's others out there, and then you have SIM cards that you can spoof SIM cards. You can have different ways of adding, almost like a little burner SIM card, but you put in your own phone number you want to have the call come from. Kind of scary stuff. So you marry up communication that cannot be intercepted on a T3, for instance, or just there's nothing there. It's encrypted end to end, And the only way to get any parts of these messages is actually get the phone that it may have been transmitted from, if there's anything stored in a device memory. So, we are looking at partnerships around the world that will allow us to start bringing in some more information about this stuff and how to gather information from encrypted communication. But right now, to be honest with you, it's very, very difficult because these are really good applications. Telegram, Signal. I still don't trust WhatsApp. Pardon me.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I'm a big fan of anything Facebook owns. I think there's probably data being gleaned. Opinion only. I'll put that there first. Now, when you start talking about real encryption, Signal. And I was just reading an article not too long ago about some of these protests going on around the country and the way they're using Signal to communicate. And they're doing that for a reason, because law enforcement can't intercept that. There's nothing there to be gleaned out of it. So that is an issue. And really, once again, going back to law enforcement and training and education, we're also including in our cryptocurrency education series and trainings out there. Please look at the encrypted communication. I call it the death of the T3. And for those that aren't online and maybe don't know what a T3 is, that's a Title III intercept where the agencies get a court order to intercept communications on the phone. It was real easy when Ma Bell was around. You just clicked right in and listened to everything. It was fairly easy when it's cell phone to cell phone. Certainly when it's radio to radio, there's no real interception problem there. But now, I call it the death of the T3, because when you marry up encrypted communication and try to intercept it, you come out with a big fat zero. And you marry that up with money. So now we have two sides of the transnational crime, two sides of the three things they need, which is communication, money, and logistics. Well, two of them are covered by encryption, and that makes for a real dangerous concoction for law enforcement. And that really is where we're going with when we talked about encrypted communication. We offer the training and the knowledge surrounding what you can and can't do with it. And we also offer knowledge and surrounding around PGP, pretty good privacy, PGP encryption, which a lot of people on the other end of encrypted communication, speaking more about email or messaging, are going to PGP encryption and other types of encryption out there. And we offer some training for UC agents out there on how not to get ferreted out by, missing something in a PGP key, signing it wrong, not including a signature, all kinds of different things that will certainly give you away if you find yourself working in an environment that your bad guy is requiring PGP keys.
Sure. What sort of information are you training officers on related to these encrypted communication apps and what to do with them?
Right. So we're training them on what kind of trails each app leaves on a device, if there's any trail at all, how to recover that information. And then, like I was saying just a minute ago, we're also training on how to correspond using PGP keys, what it is, how you generate one, how you correspond with them, how you decode one, how you send a signature, and what to do and what not to do if you find yourself mixed up in a PGP communication, trying to get access to something. A lot of these dark markets out there will require you to only communicate using PGP. And then if you sign it wrong or you don't recognize something along with that message, then you could, and I'm trying not to give away too many secrets here. You can find yourself being locked out of any one of these accounts because you didn't pass the I'm not a cop test.
I got you. Thanks for putting all that together for me and demystifying that. So, I've used a couple, the examples I've used up to this point have been really narcotics cases, but obviously I know that that's not the only use case that you guys run into. Would you say that narcotics cases are the most prevalent with these types of encrypted currencies and communications, or is it something else like sex trafficking or something else entirely?
Well, nowadays I like to tell people out there, you take out fiat currency, the dollar, and stick Bitcoin in there, and any scam that uses crypto or fiat can use crypto. That being said, we have assisted on cases involving human smuggling, human trafficking, straight out scams, IRS scams, CRA scams in Canada, straight out, remote into your computer scams, we took over your device scam. We also have now, because we have encrypted communication, Telegram and Signal, we see chat boards that are luring people in using the encrypted communication, and then they're enticing them to invest in Ponzi schemes, and they're just straight out losing their money. And then people will call us and say, could you please help me? I lost X amount of money in this scam. Can you help me? And we ask them, well, what happened? And they start telling us about a Telegram chat or a Signal chat, or, these groups that are formed on these encrypted communication boards. And, I almost don't have the will, but I have to tell them there's not a whole lot we can do for you, because of what happened and the way it was conducted. Now, as we get better and technology gets better, we're hoping we can do more for them. But these are tough cases because of the encryption on both sides.
Sure. Now, you guys also offer services where you will testify in court on a cryptocurrency case. Is that correct?
That is correct. We have provided testimony to federal courts, or federal court in Florida around cryptocurrency. I won't mention the case because it was a high-profile client, but we did provide testimony, and that testimony was accepted by the court apparently. So we have done that. I've testified in court many, many times. I'm sure you have as well. So we do make for good testimony providers around cryptocurrency. So if that service is needed by an agency out there, what is Bitcoin? What is Ethereum? How do the transactions work? Or just looking at your evidence and saying, yes, that's fine. It looks like you guys have a good case. Or looking at your evidence going, that's wrong, and you're going to get eaten up in court over this.
Which is so valuable to have that sort of a second eye to look at those things and draw attention to them, especially when it's not too late to correct it.
Exactly. I was just talking to a law enforcement agency yesterday on the East Coast. I was reviewing a case for them, and I brought up a bunch of points that they were unaware of. Like Ethereum can't be transferred on the Bitcoin blockchain. That's wrong. You'll never get anywhere investigating that. Number one, if you try to present that somewhere, it's going to be wrong. So we need to get to the bottom of this. You need to go back to your victim and ask these questions instead. And that's what they do, and it works out well for them because then they're not trying to investigate a case that's not going to pan out for them. Or if somehow they make the ends meet, then they go to court, and a good attorney backed up with another expert in crypto says that's just wrong altogether. It never works. You don't want to be that investigator.
You don't want that.
It's just killed.
That's just a mess.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, I assume that you offer this expert testimony for any case, regardless of whether you guys were consulted or on it or worked on it with that law enforcement agency or not.
We will do the review for any law enforcement agency that asks us to do it. And we're equal opportunity. I hate to say that to the guys because I'm law enforcement, but we have had defense attorneys come to us and ask us about it.
Sure. But I've always looked at that sort of thing as really just a challenge to be better in my investigations and to take advantage of these types of expert resources when they're available to me, because I do know that the defense attorneys know about these resources. And the last thing you want is to be the one that wasn't prepared and the defense attorney is.
Isn't that the truth? And I think to some level, most of us have been there before where we're like, this isn't going well for me right now. And that's a really awkward place to be, especially on the stand. I think every law enforcement officer can think of a situation like that. So, we offer those review services, even if you just want us to review it and say, look at this or look at that, or if you want us to testify, we do that. I really enjoy working with law enforcement on these cases. It expands my knowledge even more because there's research involved. And it helps the agency and officers. And at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do because real people have been harmed, and it's the right thing to do to go in and present all you can present to make sure there's a positive outcome for these cases.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've talked a lot here so far in the show about the way that you help law enforcement officers and agencies succeed in these investigations and the benefit to consulting with you guys and working with you. And we've talked a little bit about what the failure looks like too. We just touched on that just a second ago. But can you tell me, do you have any examples of some failures that you've seen? What's at stake? What's at risk here to try and muscle through one of these investigations on your own when you're not really clear on how to investigate it and what the facts are and how to go through it?
Well, I think one of the start failures that we have, and we just talked about the encrypted communication and Telegram and Signal, one of the failures that technology has today is there's no way to see into that. So that's a failure on technology side. Will it get fixed? We don't know, but that's just one of them. There's all kinds of cases out there that we look at, and because of the anonymous nature of crypto, we look at them and then we have to go back to our client and go, we just can't fix this. There's nothing we can do here. These people were really good. And I had a case out of California that involved about $350,000 stolen out of what we call a hardware wallet for crypto. And I traced it all out, and I finally got to the point where I just had to call the complainant back and say, I don't have an answer for you. I know that you lost your crypto. I can point you in a direction to where information may be available, and you can take it to a law enforcement agency and they can try to prosecute it. But the fact of the matter is how you lost your crypto, I just don't know. And was it a case of the device was hacked? I don't know. Was it a case of someone he knew getting into his computer and making and getting access to the device? I don't know. I just don't know. I have some theories around it. But there are going to be a lot of days in the cryptocurrency encryption world and the encrypted communication world where, as an investigator, you just walk away and go, I can't fix it. I can't solve it. But I will tell you this, and I tell this to all my students and certainly on my video series. The blockchain is a permanent ledger. It never goes away. It doesn't forget. So go back and keep looking. Attribution may come later. It may come 6 weeks later for one of these transactions. It may come a year later. Go look again. Keep revisiting it. Watch that address. Watch that transaction to see if attribution is added after the fact, because the blockchain doesn't forget. Now, I say this and I'll say it again. When I first got in law enforcement, I had a good friend of mine. He looked at me and said, Rob, he said, bad guys in this world don't get paid to run, but we get paid to wait and catch them. We get paid to sit right here and wait. Just be patient. And that's what a lot of investigators have to do these days. Be patient. We're getting there.
Absolutely. So now, big part of the audience for this show, obviously, both of it is law enforcement, private security, but to be more specific, we're also talking to a lot of law enforcement leaders and trainers on this podcast. And so I'm curious, what can you share to those people specifically? Who is it that they want to train within their agency on cryptocurrency? Is that the average patrol officer? Is that just investigators? And really, what's at stake if they don't?
Well, I think there's different levels of training for different peoples and different roles, different law enforcement officers. For your patrol officers out there on the street, patrol has their hands full going from call to call these days. I've been there. I feel for these guys and gals out there, call to call. But they do need to know what general recognition of crypto is. Communication on the phone, different wallets, just a decent understanding so when they go take a complaint involving I lost my crypto or I transferred crypto or I bought something with crypto, complaints can arise in different ways. They need to have a basic understanding of what it is and how to record the best evidence on the scene at the time. Now, if you're a detective, you need to have a much better understanding because you're looking a little deeper into how this all works. I will tell any agency out there, if your gun crimes unit doesn't know about crypto, you're missing the ball. If your drug crimes people don't understand crypto, you're missing the ball. If your financial investigators don't understand crypto and how to investigate and have tools available like we offer to you, you have missed the boat. It has sailed right by, and you are really not providing the best services you can to your community. And I don't say that lightly because we all want to do a good job. But the fact is I get called on a daily basis by law enforcement agencies around this country who say, can you help me? I do it most of the time for free, but it takes a lot of time to do this. We've got to go from a small amount of knowledge and expand that knowledge around law enforcement agencies at all around the country. And your investigators have got to understand this. This is the way the world's going. This is like saying when the horse was, still the preferred mode of transportation, and you saw the car. This is like saying that car is never going to make it. Those are those guys. This is like saying Kodak is still going to offer film for their cameras, one of the biggest blunders in history. Back in 2002 or something like that. When Kodak said, "Oh, we're sticking to film and we're not going digital." It's a blunder of that magnitude if you don't get into crypto and understand it.
You got to know that particular story about Kodak hits right at home with me. I grew up in Rochester, New York, which is incidentally where I started my law enforcement career as well. That is the home of Kodak. And I saw the demise of Kodak and just how that affected the entire community, that city, and even that region of the state, because of that decision they made. I mean, they were the single largest employer in Rochester when I was a kid growing up, and it was pretty devastating. And it's a good analogy for what happens when we fail to recognize that things are changing around us and we don't adapt to it.
Exactly. And this is still, like I said, a nascent technology, but we know it's not going anywhere, and now we know that it is caught on and it is mainstream and it is the future. So if there's any doubt in your mind which way to go, which the Kodak board really didn't have a whole lot. I mean, they knew, but they didn't really know. That's why they made the decision. But, if you're a leader in a law enforcement agency, the writing's on the wall. It's clear where this is going. So, get on the boat because it's sailing. And you're either going to do it now or you're going to do it later. I know law enforcement sometimes likes hard knocks, but let's not have hard knocks in this. And let's just jump right on the boat and get in there and start making a difference in the cryptocurrency world.
Absolutely. Now, Robert, you are not only the COO of Blockchain Intelligence Group, but you are also a former law enforcement officer yourself. Is that right?
That's correct. I started my law enforcement career back in 1994 in El Paso Police Department, El Paso, Texas. And, a little shout out to my guys over there and gals. El Paso Police Department is a great police department. Well-trained, super well led under the chief right now, Chief Greg Allen. Great guy. I've known him in some capacity since 94. One of the safest cities in the U.S., even though we're across the river from one of the most violent cities in the world, whereas Mexico, El Paso is still routinely named the second safest city in the country. So I'm very proud of my alma mater. I did go over to the feds. After about 8 years there, I made up to patrol supervisor. I went over to the air marshals for a short time. I was lucky fortunate enough to get picked up by Homeland Security Investigations in 2006, where I expanded my career, becoming a supervisor special agent out there, and also leading an SRT team for many, many years for Homeland Security Investigations. So I've done my time. I've walked around the block many, many times in different law enforcement capacities, and this is why I'm so passionate about law enforcement. I think I bleed blue sometimes. But that's where my passion is, always has been. And at least in my current role, I'm doing something for law enforcement, hopefully. And I just still get to dabble in some investigations once in a while and get out there and get some work in. So I really appreciate all the agencies who do call us and let us assist them. I'm law enforcement through and through.
So at what point in your law enforcement career did you become interested in and subsequently become an expert in digital currency?
Well, I was in Las Cruces, New Mexico, as the resident agent in charge of a Homeland Security office. A lot of criminal investigators there, and I had the opportunity to go to headquarters, Homeland Security, which is big headquarters up in D.C. And when you arrive there, you get assigned. You arrive there as a GS-14 supervisor, and they assign you a program to investigate. Or to assist with. They call you a program manager and they say, this is your investigative specialty. You need to learn about it and be the person who liaisons from the field to the DC management, headquarters management on these programs. And I had a friend of mine who had actually preceded me up there. He was a 15, and he said, "You want to work for me? You're just getting here. You want to work for me?" I said, "Sure, fine." I'm in this financial group. And so I went over to the financial group where he headed it up, and he said, "What do you know about Bitcoin?" I said, "Never heard of it in my life." And this is about 2015. And he said, "Well, you better get familiar with it because that's your program. You're going to be the know-all, be-all for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency investigation." So it was a steep learning curve. Shout out to a friend of mine who's a great investigator out there in Portland, Oregon. I'll leave his name out of this. But he taught me a lot. He took me through the ropes. He had done a lot of crypto investigations. And over the years, I've just continued to expand my knowledge, continue to expand investigations, continue to think about ways to make this easier and better, and the training cycles and how to get that information to police officers and make it stick. This is where we are today. I think we've done a really good job.
Yeah. Now, with learning any new skill, especially one as complex as this, there's always hurdles and mistakes that are made along the way. We've all made them. And I'm wondering, can you share with us a story, if you will, of any mistake you made early on as you were learning about digital currency that has helped shape how you have formulated these services that you offer and the training that you're offering?
Right. So I think the biggest mistake that I made and that we can also make, and it took me a little while to realize, is to look at cryptocurrency as a cyber crime. And people might say, well, it's a cyber crime. It's done over a computer. And I would say to them, when I do a Visa card transaction, it's done over a computer. It's done over the internet, right? It's done over a two-way connection with an internet node over a MasterCard or a Visa. And from the purchaser to them, right? And they'll agree. And I say, but is that a cyber crime? It's not a cyber crime. It's a financial crime. This is a financial crime. And yes, there's a spot for a computer forensics agent in this investigation. But this is a financial crime. This is a financial weapon, if you will, in crime to be used in financial ways. So don't think of Bitcoin as, oh, it's that computer thing. I'm going to give it to my cyber department. It doesn't belong there. This belongs with your drug agents, with your firearms agents. This belongs with your gang agents. Gangs are using this. They use cryptocurrency all day long. It's the best way. That and the crypto communications, they're walking circles around law enforcement agencies today because of this. So don't give this to your cyber people. Besides, your cyber staff is probably way understaffed already. Give it to your gang investigator, give it to your drug investigator, give it to your financial crimes investigator. They will. All this is a form of value in the same old schemes. That was my biggest mistake early days. It's been corrected, and it was the right thing to do.
That's a really great point, and I'd have to say that I'm probably a bit guilty of that misconception as well, in attributing that to being a cyber crime, even though I understand its connection to these other very real street-level crimes. I think in the back of my mind, that's kind of the way I was looking at it too. So I appreciate you pointing that out. So for everybody that's listening to the show right now, that is, convinced that they need to look further into training themselves on cryptocurrency and encrypted communications, or just working with somebody like you, can you tell us, what do you think is the most important question that our listeners should be asking themselves right now as they consider what to do going forward and whether or not they should pursue something like this?
Well, first of all, I think that every agency needs to strongly consider, raising the bar within their agency for these types of crimes involving cryptocurrency, because they happen. So with that being said, I think the first thing I would question if I was a law enforcement manager, because I spent a lot of time in law enforcement management, I have a degree in that, doesn't do me much good today, but anyway, I would probably go do a search in the RMS system and say, okay, how many of these cases do we have? Are they out there? Is this a prevalent issue in my community? And then if you see that it's not in your RMS system, or it could be, go out and talk to your investigators. Hey, have you seen this? Go out and drive around town. Do you see Bitcoin ATMs or crypto kiosks around there? Do you have an opioid problem? That right there is your number one indicator that you probably have cryptocurrency flowing somewhere within your community. Now, if you're a large community like we are here in El Paso or Dallas or Phoenix or something like that. It's a big jurisdiction, and you're going to have all kinds of things. But if you're a smaller community and you're struggling with budgets, that is a situation where you have to make trade-offs. So go do the research and find out if you don't need it and you're not seeing it, and you're just having one case once in a while. Well, call me. I'll help you out. Well, our company will help you out with these. Give us a short context, and we'll try to help you out the best we can on a one-off case. But if you're a larger agency, Austin, Dallas, Phoenix, Tucson, Chicago, New York, all these other agencies out there that are very large agencies, you do have this going on. There's no doubt about it. I'll show you all day long. And it's not really optional anymore. These are training things you need and platforms you need to get your investigators down the line.
Absolutely. Now, I guess it would probably be safe to say that you guys don't exactly hold the monopoly on companies that are conducting or working with cryptocurrency investigations. So what would you say that those listening to the show right now, what's the most important thing that they need to consider when evaluating someone to work with on these types of cases or to bring in for training?
I'm glad you asked that. So you're right. We have about 4 real competitors additionally out there. I will tell law enforcement agencies we are the only one of our kind out there that is truly law enforcement centric. The upper management, the senior management, me and myself, came from law enforcement. And we built this tool with law enforcement in mind from step one. We also support law enforcement, and we don't look at law enforcement as deep pockets. Now, a lot of people will say, hey, let's build a tool for the government, for DEA, and let's sell it to them for $1 billion. And we have a competitor out there that kind of sees things like that. I won't name anyone. But the point of the matter is DEA doesn't have that kind of money. HSI doesn't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
Okay. Tucson PD, El Paso PD, all these PDs, they don't have that kind of money either. The point of the matter is that law enforcement is expensive, and money tends to go to the squeakiest wheel, and that's patrol, handling family fight calls at 3 a.m. That's where the money needs to be, and equipment for those guys that are doing on the street work. So we try to keep our operation very lean, law enforcement centric, and affordable. All right, that's how we try to keep it. We're not into bilking law enforcement because they have $1 billion. That's not the point. The point is to let law enforcement solve crime that affects real people around the world.
Awesome. I love that philosophy. I appreciate that about you guys. So I'd like to just turn things over to you at this point here, Robert, and give you the opportunity to plug your stuff. Tell us how we can connect with you and where to find you.
Right. So our company is called the Blockchain Intelligence Group. We're a company out of Vancouver, Canada. I actually sat in Texas because this is home for me, and we remote work these days, as I think most people do. And I even remoted before the COVID thing hit, so it wasn't much of a change for me. But we are a Canadian company with our parent company located in Vancouver. I have some really great staff up there. The president of the company, Lance Morgan, has just been awesome. As far as bringing me on and letting me kind of lead the way here for law enforcement and development of our tools and services. You can contact me. You can get a hold of me through our website. You'll see my contact information up there. It's blockchaingroup.io. That's an I, India, Oscar, blockchaingroup.io. You can go to our website. My contact information is there. If you're a law enforcement agent or officer, you're on a traffic stop at 3 a.m, you see something you think is crypto, you just don't know. You know what? Call me. Please don't do it all the time, but one officer is great. Call me. I'll help you. I've done it many times. Certainly, if you have a question about crypto and an investigation surrounding crypto, or you just don't understand something, or you want the training, or you want me to just come in and weigh in on something, you can contact me by email. I'll get right back to you best I can, and I'll give you the advice, or I'll put you in contact with industry leaders that allow you to, move forward and get your case down the line.
Awesome. And I'd like to point out to everybody too, you can go over to Facebook and look up the group Public Safety Innovators. We have a private group set up there that I would love it if you would join. We are screening the individuals that are joining that group to make sure we keep that closed and private group amongst law enforcement and private security professionals. But Robert is also a member of that group, and so if that's another platform you'd like to go to connect with him or any of our other innovators that are guests on the show, I'd encourage you to head over there and do that. Well, that's a wrap. Robert, thank you so much for being a guest on the show. This was a great episode. I really appreciate it.
Adam, thank you for having us. We appreciate you and what you're doing, and we hope you have much success.
Hey everybody, thanks for checking out this episode of the Public Safety Innovators Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. Please head over to my website at publicsafetyinnovatorspodcast.com or simply psi.chat, where you can check out episode notes and other episodes from the show. While you're there, you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or really anywhere else that you prefer to listen to podcasts. I would greatly appreciate if you could help other people find the show by leaving a review wherever it is that you prefer to listen to the show. I'd love to hear from you if you have feedback about the show, a suggestion on a guest, or maybe you're a public safety innovator yourself and would like to be a guest on the show. Please head over to my contact page on the website and you can submit that information there, or just email me at adam@psi.chat. All right, I'll catch you on the next episode.